Okay, amazing. Well, I'll kick us off here. My name is Josh Nesbitt. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Medic Mobile, and we're a nonprofit technology company that was founded in 2010 to improve health in the hardest to reach communities. We've been working on that ever since. This call is the first of its kind, given that this is a brand new open source project. And really the first time that we have an open community call to discuss it. I'm really excited. I'm honored to host this first discussion, but expect that the community manager who's coming on board to help us out is going to be even more organized than I am and even more strategic with our time. And I'm really excited for this to transition into a regular and recurring meeting with agendas shared ahead of time and really best practices in open source community management and participation. So I'm stepping in today, really happy to be here with you. And yeah, just honored to kick off this discussion, provide some thoughts, ask a few questions, do a few demos, and get really a set of conversations started. So let's take a look at the agenda. So first we'll provide just a quick intro to the CHT and really highlight a few contributions thus far, as well as hint at and really sort of outline the types of contributions that are coming. Invite your ideas. Invite a few of you, if you'd like, to share a bit about how you're pragmatically involved in this project towards the end of the discussion. And then outline some next steps, some things that, from my perspective and Medic's perspective, we felt were really important to have in place for this project. I really want to tap into the wisdom of this group and experience and, do some listening and learning from, your experience in other open source projects to think about what else needs to be in place. And then really invite closing comments towards the end here as we close up 2018 and head into 2019. So that's the agenda. I'll pause here. Anybody have any sort of burning agenda topic that they definitely wanted to see on here that they hope that we cover throughout? Awesome. Well, I'll take silence as a no, at least to start. We'll give more space for those silences later on, because I know it's helpful in finding unmute buttons and that sort of thing. But let's start with an intro. The Community Health Toolkit is really positioned as a global public good. The idea here is that this is a shared toolkit that we can all use and build upon to advance universal health coverage. And practically, it is a set of things. It's a collection of open source technologies that support community health teams. And many of us have focused on community health workers, but we know that they're not alone in delivering care. So it's really a set of tools to support a community health team, as well as open access resources, such as design, technical, and implementer resources to help us fully integrate these tools into models of care and into health systems. We know that building the technologies really just isn't enough. So we're trying to open up access to and open source the set of things that will lead to better tools getting into the health workers' hands and better care getting to the patients. And really, together we're envisioning a world where primary healthcare is of the highest attainable quality, is equitable, and we can see it, is accessible, and is delivered by those who are trusted by their neighbors and in their communities. So that's the CHT in a nutshell. And I'm really excited that we have a website live. So if you go to communityhealthtoolkit.org, you'll see the first website. We did use Squarespace to launch it quickly, and are considering rebuilding on an open source stack. So that's a discussion for later for sure. But for now, I think it does serve its purpose. It provides, I think, really great information. There's a pretty detailed FAQ section, a set of resources that you can access, and I'll go through a few of those later on here. But definitely feel free to visit and point your teams and potential collaborators to the CHT site. I'd say just as importantly, we've launched a set of community principles. And you know, a number of the folks on this call are new, but for those that, you know, we've been doing this work alongside for, in some cases, years, we've come together to do these things in these ways, to advance universal health coverage and bring about a new status quo where care is reaching everyone when and where they need it, to build open source software for the reasons listed here, to advance accountability, encourage and really enable local ownership and adaptation. We know that great ideas will come from all over, and to support standards that will enable us to work together as these tools keep evolving. We also are committing to invest in open access resources. The idea here is we're all building resources, and some of them should be shared and could be reused or remixed or built upon. And finally, we're committing to practicing human-centered and participatory design as we're building these things. And you know, human-centered design is both at least from my perspective, is both a way to build and design things that stick and work for people, but it's also really a philosophy. It's saying that we want humanity and humans to be considered as we're building these things. So I think this as a community principle is a big deal, and I think really important. And then I'll just share my perspective on sort of this approach, this multi-stakeholder approach and really collaborative effort. For me, I see it as a departure from some norms that we've been in for a while. I see it as really systematically seeking to release expertise and release knowledge as opposed to consolidating it, which I think is sort of the traditional way, or even just a summary of business strategy to consolidate knowledge. I see us looking to sort of step into roles and work that's needed by the community and by the ecosystem, as opposed to protecting or shoring up services. And I see a technical strategy with the CHT that really encourages much more and much more across the board investment. Should help the funders and other stakeholders feel really good about investing time and funding in lots of our organizations because it is not a zero-sum game, and we're building these things together. So for all those reasons, I'm really excited, and yeah, I'm grateful that we're going about things that way. As you'll see on the website, we're doing this with amazing collaborators. Really, hundreds of people are contributing to the CHT already across a really broad range of global health NGOs, technical organizations, as well as governments and research institutions. And I can't see the full call list right now, but I know many of our friends and colleagues from these organizations are on with us today. And what I actually might ask us to do in the chat window, if you're up for it, is to share your name, your title at your organization or institution, and maybe a few quick notes about areas of expertise or perspectives that you're bringing to the community here. So for me, I might say I'm Josh Nesbitt. I'm CEO at Medic, and I bring expertise in qualitative research, philanthropy, community health systems design, and offline first web apps. So that might be my mix of things and perspectives. And I'll ask and just give a few seconds here to get started, but I'll hope that many of you will chime in and add some notes in the chat so that we know who's showing up and with what skills and perspectives. Are folks able to find the chat window? Do we have a few contributions? And I'd say I think some of my medic colleagues are on too, so please feel free to chime in as well. Awesome. So we'll keep going through the deck here while you all are writing up your mini profiles, I'd say, and show a couple of demos, really demonstrations of things that have been contributed thus far. And I think this will give you an idea of what's in the CHT already, and also what might be extended or contributed in the future. And first, I'll start with the Community Health Application Framework. This is really one of the core components of the CHT right now. And what it does is it lets you build community health apps for your community health team. You can then load those apps on phones or tablets or netbooks to equip your health workers and your health team as they're providing care and supervising those providing care. And what you're seeing on this slide here is a quick little demo that shows some of the features and sort of the community health workers' experience as they're being guided to different homes at different times through care that they're providing in those homes, and then are seeing how they're doing compared to goals that they've set and targets that they've set. So that's the Community Health Application Framework. As you might know, Medic contributed this repository and this code. It's been in the works for the better part of a decade, and is really flexible, lets us do a lot. So Medic is really honored to be one of the core contributors, as well as to serve as the technical steward for the CHT project. Second contribution I wanted to highlight here is from our friends at Digital Campus. Appia Mobile is an open source and really amazing mobile learning platform that has been specifically designed and optimized for delivering content and quizzes in low bandwidth settings or low broadband settings, and specifically co-designed with frontline health workers, which is really incredible. And I think you will see many more of the tools contributed to the CHT deployed in an integrated way. And I think this is one of the clearest examples where we have an opportunity to deploy support tools as well as learning and continuing education tools together. You can imagine a community health worker equipped with Appia Mobile as well as their community health app, for example. The third contribution I'll highlight, included sort of right out of the gate, is from our friends at the UBComp lab at the University of Washington, and a tool that's really been co-developed and co-designed with Muso at their innovation network site in Mali, as well as with support from the Medic team. And this tool, you'll see in the demo on the left, is deployed as sort of a fully integrated or sort of to the user an embedded application, but is a separate app. And what it does is help guide a community health worker who's taking an image of malaria rapid diagnostic and essentially optimizes based on thresholds that you set for position or size and sharpness, brightness, and the presence of shadows, and sort of sets acceptability thresholds for each. I think this is a really exciting direction for computer vision to support doorstep diagnostics. And I think this is sort of something quite exciting. Awesome. Well, before I go on to some featured resources, we're at 8:20, and I want to pause and answer burning questions that anybody has, things that have come up, even just in the brief content I've presented already, questions that you have, things that you'd like to clarify.
Josh, this is Matt Bonds.
Hey, Matt.
Pivot. I just have a question on something that you've commented on, but I wouldn't mind hearing one more time. Just the difference between Medic Mobile and the Community Health Toolkit. Just, when I think of the Community Health Toolkit, I think of the Medic Mobile app. That's how I think about it in my head. And I'm trying to wrap my head around how this connects with Medic Mobile and how much of a departure from your Medic Mobile's traditional activities.
Thanks, Matt. It's a great question. I'll point you also to a blog post that we wrote on why we're contributing to the CHT and what it means for our organization. But if I were to summarize it, Medic has moved really all of our assets, our technical assets, out from underneath our organizational umbrella and into the public domain as part of the CHT. So we essentially have done that and have talked to all the other essentially launch partners or contributing partners and invited them for the things that make sense for them to do the same. And Digital Campus is a really good example. Their app is already open source, and they were really excited for it to be included as also part of the CHT, and something that if you're supporting a community health team, you should or could consider as part of your toolkit. So from my perspective, Medic has become an organization with 100 full-time staff, brilliant engineers and designers and community health specialists who are now really contributing to this public good as the primary thing that we're doing, while also supporting specific partners and specific governments, and going deep in really specific areas. But essentially, we know there are things that we won't think of. There are things we won't have the bandwidth to build. And there was an opportunity to build these things with others. So that's how we've organized ourselves. And then technically, the Community Health Application Framework, which I showed the demo of, and you may know as the Medic app, is really a framework that lets you build those apps. And the apps themselves, we've been talking about as reference apps that could be reused across health systems. And what we've learned over the years is that the effort that goes into building those community health apps and really the end-to-end experience for a community health worker is as much app development as building something and launching it in the App Store. These days you have tools that let you build the apps, but really the design of that experience for a community health worker, we wanted to honor and sort of treat as app development. So, from our perspective, we're providing a core framework and set of tools that help you build those apps. We expect a lot of people on this call and in this community to be building those apps too. And we sort of have a unique view, I think, at least right now, of some of the key ways that the framework itself should be evolving. And I'll point to the next slide, actually, where we're sharing the latest release notes for version 3 of the framework, as well as the roadmap for the framework. And it may make sense that our core engineers are focused there now and in the foreseeable future. But there's all sorts of things that you can extend and build on top of and around the framework. And then also standalone apps that can integrate with community health apps. So I'd say we're contributing a really important part of the CHT right now. And I hope this community grows exponentially, and we have lots of engineers all over the world, designers, community health specialists contributing content, so that the 100 people at Medic doesn't feel like a lot, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Awesome, thanks for asking that. Cool, well, I'll highlight a few of these resources here. There'll be time for questions towards the end of the call for sure, as well as I've got a couple of specific questions for y'all. First resource to point out here is the overview of the Community Health App Framework. It's a detailed walkthrough of the types of things that you can build with the framework. And so if you are a developer or a designer and you're considering building with the CHT and with the framework in particular, definitely check it out. We put a good amount of time into integrating this because we knew it had to be awesome. The second set of resources to point you to are resources for developers. A few of you are in our public Slack channel already. Hope to see more of you there. And I know a number of you have already got your dev environment set up on your machines, and you're starting to build with the framework. But we tried to outline a step-by-step process on GitHub to help you get going, and we really hope that you will. I've linked in the deck here to the release of version 3, which includes a database upgrade. We're now on Couch 2.2. Includes a new way to do upgrades with a totally new tool, and really better performance overall, and a bunch of other exciting updates. So hope that you all check that out. We've also, and this is new for Medic and the framework, the roadmap is public. So the link here is to the product roadmap, and actually for the other tools, Appia is a really good example. Their roadmap and release notes are public too. And we expect that will be the norm for tools that are being contributed. So yeah, check out the development resources, and hope to see you on the Slack channel. The third resource that I'll point y'all to is the icon library. This is a collection of 60 custom icons that really represent people and places and actions and programs that we found to be helpful to use across the software, and really are a set of community health icons. I think this would be a really exciting place to contribute and also recommend ideas or gaps in the library. The design team at Medic has contributed the majority of these, and I know would love ideas. So please, yeah, check out the library through this link. We store these on GitHub and do version control there as well. Awesome. So I'll turn now to where we're heading and some really exciting opportunities. And really, how I'd frame it is potential contributions. First of all, and I think really importantly, community health apps can become reference applications, can be open sourced and available to other organizations and other health systems to reuse or tweak from essentially templates that support a certain set of workflows for primary care. You'll see a couple of examples on the left from partners, I think many of you on this call. And we hope that this becomes normal, that the applications that we're developing are shared with the community, are really celebrated as high impact designs, and can spread and be reused. Also coming are a set of resources that we know are really needed, focused on design. You'll see an overview of human-centered design process here. Each of these phases requires methods and certain tools. I should say require methods and can benefit from certain tools. And we want to open source and provide these as open access. So stay tuned. There's more to come here. A bunch of really cool HCD resources are coming soon. And then I just wanted to highlight a couple of ideas about how you and others can be involved. First of all, if you're hearing about the principles and the mission and what we're setting out to do as a community here, and you think, I know this person who really should be involved, I hope that you'll refer them, invite them to our next community call, and bug them to get involved, to let them know that they'd be welcome here and we'd be excited to have more contributors. The second thing that that you and your organizations can do is consider developing your own apps, building your own community health apps for your community health teams, and then sharing them with the community and getting feedback. We're excited to see even more of this start to happen. Just as importantly, I know a lot of organizations on this call are preparing to deploy the CHT. And as we're doing that, we want to be sharing the learnings really openly and learning from one another. So that's an obvious and awesome one. We also are going to be organizing training materials and operational and policy guidelines. We know that there's a lot that goes on around the technology itself, on the programmatic side and on the operations side, and we want to open source those resources too. So if you have an awesome training deck for community health workers in general, but also on their community health app, that's a great candidate for inclusion in the CHT. And we'd love to hear from you. If you're a developer or a designer, please jump into GitHub and check out the help wanted tags. I think that the Appia repos have those as well. And start to build with us. Let's work together on important features. We have been hearing from hundreds and thousands of health workers for the better part of a decade, and there's no shortage of good ideas and important things to work on. We'd love to collaborate. So meet us there, or jump into the technical community on Slack and chat with one of the friendly developers from all over the world who know this stuff extremely well, and find us there. Awesome. So I'll pause again and invite questions about these opportunities, as well as also invite anyone who'd like to share what their plans are, and what in the coming months or the coming year they're thinking about related to the CHT that they'd like the community to know about, even if it's just a one-sentence summary.
Hi Josh, this is Abhishek.
Hi Abhishek, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. So I was just looking at this and was wondering, so are there any plans for like the people who are part of community health app and we developing the community health toolkit? So any plans on the deployment, like how will we look for the opportunities where we can deploy these, or who, I mean, are we as a community health team looking for it, or will we waiting for the people to come to us and then we'll do the deployment?
It's such a great question. And Abhishek, do you want to maybe just share your role in a bit about your organization? And then I'll answer your question, but it's a great one.
Yeah. So hello everyone. So this is Abhishek. I'm from Samanvay Foundation. We are a Indian Bangalore-based organization, and we are a non-profit tech startup. So we have developed a platform called OpenCHS, an open source health platform. It's again a community health platform for health workers, and we support government organizations and NGOs. Yeah.
Thanks, Abhishek. Awesome. So, I mean, my sense is that organizations like Medic and others that have a sense of like, who is looking to deploy the CHT are going to be able to provide referrals for sure. I also think that a lot of organizations are going to find the CHT and want to primarily want to configure and deploy the CHT successfully. And I think we should take a very inclusive view of community. And if you're deploying the CHT, you're part of the community. But it's different than necessarily contributing code or a reference app or opening up your training materials. I'd say it's sort of a different sort of different type of participation in the community. But you can imagine, and I can imagine, sort of a matchmaking process where, Abhishek, let's say an NGO or local government in India was simply looking to get support to deploy the CHT. We can make that connection, and you can see a brilliant partnership. So I think, we're going to, in part, see who shows up and very proactively refer partners that we think might be a good match. So yeah, it's such a good question. And I think we should maybe think about how our forums and meetups and other activities like explicitly support that sort of matchmaking.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hi, Josh. This is Erica from D-Tree. And
hey, Erica.
First, hi. Just a thank you for putting on this webinar. I think a number of people on our team are here, and we're really excited about it and engaging more with the community. You've said a few things about how you see the community engaging, and I was wondering if you can just talk a bit more about various ways for different groups. I think one thing that's really exciting for us is it's the code is available, but then open access resources around everything that's needed to make the system function is a really exciting opportunity. And I'd love to hear more about your thoughts about various ways that I think different people on a team can engage together really at the end of the day to make this work, not only from a technical but also the operational perspective.
Amazing, Erica. Yeah, thanks for saying that. And hi to all the D-Tree folks. I'm so glad you're able to join. And yeah, deeply inspired by the work that you all do. It's such a good question. I think we started with, for the tool developers that were contributing to the CHT, getting documentation in order and making it clear how to get things up and running technically, as you say, technically, and launching a technical community in that way, and sort of that is a first foothold. But I'll actually go to the next slide here, in part because I think there's a lot more that we need to do to support the sort of interaction you're describing. First of all, I think we should launch the forum in short order, and that should have discussion threads and really subgroups focused on exactly what you're describing. So I think that is a no-brainer, and should be a place for thoughtful and detailed replies, archives, and also links to resources. And I think if anyone has ideas other than Google Drive for storing and accessing resources, I'm all ears and be really interested. But the forum, I think, is really important. I also think we're very likely to move off of Slack at some point in the future. Maybe not immediately, but at some point. We've seen how important it is to have asynchronous chat that helps teams work together over time zones, but also sometimes real time. And I think you can imagine a few different channels in an open source async chat that supports what you're describing. Someone's building a new training deck, someone's trying to figure out their airtime policy, someone is just trying to get this design right for setting up a community health app a certain way, or someone wants an extra set of eyes on their test framework for dosages. Those, I think, sometimes require collaboration in real time, and that's how it's most productive. So those are my first ideas. Do you or others have others?
It sounds great to me. I think that's a really great first starting point. I could definitely think about potentially, as you kind of mentioned, meetups in the future where groups that are focused on certain aspects could even get together. But from our perspective, we're excited about this and happy to think through these as we continue. Awesome. And think about what the challenges and opportunities are.
Amazing. Thanks, Erica. Looking forward to it. That sounds great.
Hello, this is Chris again from D3, joining from Malawi. It's good to be here, and thanks, George, for arranging the webinar and the presentation, which I think is continuing. I have two specific questions, and probably the other one will be a comment. So the first one is around, in your other slide, you shared on how we can, for example, bring in input, invite a collaborator, or share experiences. I think of late there's been so much interest from governments wanting to institutionalize community applications or other systems. So there is an opportunity there to invite government people. They have strategies in place and roadmaps, and I think it'd be good to share also with them on what's happening, and so they are aware. So that's a bit of a comment. Second is a question. I'm just wondering what's the thought or the plan in terms of integrating the CHTs with other systems. For example, EMRs at facilities where you need to make referrals and track the patients, or even DHIS2. So any thought around there? What's the plan? Are the tools coming already with an interface or a tool to integrate with other tools? Thanks.
Awesome questions, Chris, and welcome. Thanks for joining from Malawi. I think it's getting late there, if I've got my time zones correct. I'm grateful that you're here with us, and awesome questions again. Let me start with the second one. What we really do not want to do, I'll say explicitly first, is treat the community health system as a replacement for primary care, or position this as a new silo in the health system. I think for me and for our team at least, we try as much as possible to position and think about designing a community health system as fully integrated into and as a subsystem within primary care, linked to strong health facilities with dedicated supervision and real referral pathways, as you described. So we're launching the CHT and working on these tools together, knowing that there would be gaps in the toolkit available for an end-to-end health system if we didn't. I think they're really important contributions. but we know it's not the whole experience for a patient or for a family. So I think those two things we're holding at once. I guess the other thing to say is that we know that there are robust communities. Medic and Dietrich and others have participated in the OpenMRS community, for example, for many years. And we respect and want to collaborate very purposefully with those communities. We were just at the OpenMRS Implementers Forum in Kenya, for example, building a set of demo integrations between the CHT and OpenMRS. We used Apache NiFi to do that, just as a set of prototypes. And you can imagine even more robust integrations where we want to be scaling certain use cases. So I think honestly, this community is a great community to come up with the sort of best bets or best buys for those integrations where we could focus our efforts. And then honestly, build out reference sites for integrated care where you have those integrations up and running and serving patients. So I think the CHT vision is a connected one and an integrated one, at least from my perspective, and excited to build that out with you, Chris. That's the first thing I'd say. And then your comment is well received. Thinking about our ministry partners and government partners, there is, I think, a window of opportunity as community health systems are being designed and redesigned, a wave of investment in community health, and rightly so. In many instances, support for community health worker cadres as formal and professionalized cadres, and government leaders at the forefront of those movements, locally and nationally. And Chris, I know your deep experience in Malawi, and others on this call. I wonder about the best ways to engage our partners. Obviously, being inclusive with the forums, the chats, the WhatsApp groups, and the calls like these, but there may be more that we do to very proactively engage our ministry colleagues.
Sure. One of the things that I've seen to be kind of useful in terms of getting the word out is through TWGs. So you could, for example, look at the opportunities where there is a TWG and share some updates, some notes. At least not only government, but also other partners will be aware of what's available, the potential there. And I think we can also reduce the reinventing the wheel, which happens quite often. So really different opportunities, and yeah, I think there is potential there, and we can ride on that.
Brilliant, Chris. Thank you. I love that idea. I think that's a great way forward. Thanks again for joining from Malawi. Much appreciated. Wonderful. Any other thoughts or questions from the group? Awesome. Well, I wish you all happy holidays to those celebrating. Again, it was an honor to chat with you all, to have 15 minutes or so to sort of open these discussions, to introduce the CHT and what we're going about with this project. And I will definitely be on future calls. I'm hopeful that those calls will be led by a full-time community manager. And we'll see you all in lots of different forums, both in person, I know many of you, as well as in the discussion forum that we'll launch and send a link to, in the Google Slides, once we share a link to this, in Slack, and on future calls. Thanks for your time, everybody. It was great to chat with you.